They thought the baby monitor would help them sleep at night, but instead, it showed them something no parent should ever see. Because when you're watching your baby sleep, who's watching back? Sarah and Daniel were first-time parents, exhausted and overwhelmed, but completely devoted to their newborn son, Ethan. To calm their constant worry, Daniel installed a high-tech baby monitor, one with video and audio so they could check on Ethan without tiptoeing into his room. The first night passed normally. Ethan cried, they fed him, soothed him back to sleep. The monitor gave them peace of mind. For the first time since Ethan's birth, Hera slept soundly. But the second night was different. Sarah woke suddenly to the sound of Ethan crying. She sat up and looked at the glowing monitor beside her bed. The screen showed the nursery. The crib was completely empty. Panic flooded her chest. She bolted out of bed and rushed into Ethan's room, only to find him lying there peacefully, eyes shut, breathing softly, not a tear on his face. She scooped him up anyway, trembling. When she returned to the bedroom, Daniel was awake and pale. He told her quietly. The crying was on the monitor, but not in the room. They tried to rationalize it. Maybe a glitch. Maybe the monitor picked up interference. But in the back of Sarah's mind, a cold thought lingered. What if it wasn't a glitch at all? On the third night, Daniel was the one awake when it happened again. The monitor flickered, the image distorting with static. And then, a shadow slid across the wall of the nursery. It was tall, thin, vaguely human, but stretched as though its body didn't belong to this world. Daniel didn't hesitate. He rushed into the nursery, but when he swung open the door, the room was still. Ethan was asleep. The walls were bare, no shadows, no intruder. He swore he'd seen it, but Sarah told him stress was making him hallucinate. Until she saw it too. The following night, while she rocked Ethan in the living room, the monitor lit up on the coffee table. Sarah glanced at it casually and froze. The crib was rocking back and forth gently, as though someone was standing there, soothing the baby. But Ethan wasn't in the crib. He was in her arms. Her heart stopped. The blood drained from her face. She screamed and dropped the monitor to the floor. That was the moment Sarah knew something was terribly wrong with their home. From that night on, the monitor seemed to have a mind of its own. It switched on at random hours. Sometimes it captured whispers, too faint to understand. Sometimes the shadows would dart across the walls, but the most terrifying thing wasn't what they heard. It was what they saw. One night, Sarah jolted awake to find the monitor glowing brighter than ever. She reached over and grabbed it. On the screen, Ethan was in his crib, crying, his tiny hands reaching upward. Sarah ran into the nursery, adrenaline surging through her, but the crib was empty. The baby wasn't there. She spun around, heart pounding, thinking she'd gone insane. But when she glanced back at the monitor, her blood ran cold. On the screen, she saw herself, standing in the nursery, smiling, cradling Ethan in her arms. Sarah's body locked up in terror. She wasn't in the nursery. She was standing in the living room, clutching the monitor, unable to breathe. Yet her reflection, her double, was in the crib, swaying side to side, humming a lullaby she hadn't sung since childhood. The image faded to static. And just like that, Ethan's cries came from the bedroom. Rushing inside, Sarah found him asleep in his crib, safe. But she couldn't shake the image of her other self holding him, smiling that unnatural smile. Daniel wanted to throw the monitor out immediately, but Sarah was afraid. What if throwing it away only made things worse? Still, after one more night of shadows crawling across the walls, they agreed. They unplugged the monitor, carried it to the trash bin outside, and swore never to use it again. But the nightmare didn't end there. That same night, Sarah woke to the unmistakable sound of crying. Not from Ethan, but from the monitor, the one they had thrown away. She looked at the corner of the bedroom, and her heart nearly stopped. There it was, the monitor, sitting on the dresser, plugged in, glowing, showing Ethan's crib. Daniel leapt up and smashed it against the floor. The screen shattered. The crying stopped. And for a moment, the room was silent. But silence was worse. Because now, when Sarah checks on Ethan at night, she doesn't need the monitor to feel it. She swears she sees a tall, thin shadow lingering in the corner of the nursery. Sometimes she hears a faint humming. Sometimes the crib rocks on its own. And sometimes in the reflection of the nursery window, she sees herself standing in the crib, smiling, while she's still at the doorway. The monitor may be gone, but the shadow in the nursery never left.